I often get asked, how did you get started in real estate? How did you buy your first apartment? And not only that, how did you buy it with no money?
Oh my God!
Well, the easiest way to buy a property with no money is if you have no money. As strange as that sounds. See, I started out in flipping houses and buying a small revenue property. See, I had some money because, I was working all the time and I had a business and I'd, put some money aside so we could do these sort of projects. And it's a lot easier doing that with your own money. But when you go through a divorce or you've got no money or you're starting out with no money, it's a lot harder to get started, or so you may think. So I'm going to go through the story of how I got my first apartment building with no money. And I made some mistakes that I will admit. I was obviously very green, but I had the drive to do it. So I'd got several educations. I'd done a home course and then I signed up with Teammate Real Estate and I got some coaching there. So I'd done some flips and I got a small threeplex, which we renovated and made it into a 4-unit by renting the garage out to increase the income. So I had all this experience, but then I got wiped out and had to sell everything off and had to start from scratch. So I had the drive, I had the network, and I had the education. And I knew I wanted to do apartment deals so I could scale quicker. So we spent 2 years refining his education and working on building his company base so we could do this scale. And we were just looking for the right deal, because for us it was all about the deal and then we could work out how to get the money next. So we found a 12-unit property. It was in the core area, so it wasn't a very desirable area. It had been on the market for quite some time, may have been up to a year, and nobody was interested. It was overpriced for what it was. So we contacted a realtor who was listing it, and we got to know the story, because every property has a story. So there was, I think, 3 partners on this one that were remote investors, and they just wanted out of the deal. They'd had enough of it. They were losing money. They had a local property management company that obviously didn't have the same feel for the property as what investors do. It's just another property to them. So it wasn't getting filled with the right clients, and obviously we're not having the right clients. It was being abused. There was no money being put back into it, and it was on a very slippery slope. There'd no money been put into it for several years. So we could see that if we got a property, we could do some renovations and we could get some better clientele that would look after the property, and then we could enjoy the income from that. So we had to negotiate the price. And we got the price, we worked out how much the renovations would be, and then we had our maximum allowable offer. We also put some other conditions in there, and we put the offer in, and they came back with a counter offer of, obviously it was more money they wanted, and they wanted some things removing from the conditions. I can't just remember now. I think we asked them to do some repairs. See, we always put things in the offer so they can be removed, because we're trying to create a win-win. You're never going to put one offer in and they accept it flat out. There's always going to be some negotiation backwards and forwards. So we like to put things in. We're happy to be removed, because then the seller thinks that they've won as well, and you've won, because it's all about doing a win-win. So we came back and we just couldn't accept it. It was still too much money for us. So we just said, no, we're not interested. And we've gone through the usual realtor telling you, oh, there's somebody else interested, where I never listen to that. I don't care if somebody else is interested. My price is my price. If someone else is willing to pay more for it, then go ahead, pay more for it. But I'm only interested in good deals. And there's an abundance of them. There's lots of good deals out there. You just got to keep looking. You'll keep finding them. So about 2 weeks later, the realtor came back and said, what was it about the offer that you didn't like? Was it the pieces they removed? I said, no, it was just the price. So they said, well, If they accepted your price, would you write it up? Yeah, we would. So we wrote another offer and it was accepted. And luckily for us, they'd actually changed the condition of the deposit. They only accepted the deposit once the conditions were removed. So it was an accepted offer just at that point, just a conditional offer. So we obviously been talking to an appraiser and got a rough idea of what it was worth. So we got an appraisal as is and as completed, and the as is appraisal was more than what we were paying. We still had some lift, so we were making money right on the buy, and obviously we had improvements, increasing the rents, we could increase the value even more. So we were buying this property for about, I think if memory serves me right, it was about 70% of its value, or maybe even less than that, its current value. So I thought, well, we can go and get some private money. So we could get some private money, we could buy it, we could refinance it, pay the private money off, and we're good. But then when we really got down to the private money, I spoke to a couple of private lenders as well, and I found out that they would only lend on the purchase price, they wouldn't lend on the valuation price. So I still had to go up with that 30% because I was hoping that if they lent on the valuation price, then my deposit is in the difference of the value, not actual the purchase. So I knew we had a deal, but that deal didn't work. And I put it to one private lender with that. And when I discovered my greenness, because obviously I'd got some education, but I didn't know everything. So I was learning here from the private lenders. I'd never used a private lender, and one of them just laughed at me. And it's not a nice feeling being laughed at. You're very embarrassed because obviously you don't know everything and you're learning from these experts. But there was a different private lender who said, yeah, you've got a deal here. Let's see what we can do to make this work. And believe it or not, which one do you think I'm still doing business with? So if there's any professionals out there, if someone's a bit naive and a bit green, work with them and help them out, because if you help them grow, they're going to keep coming back and you're going to keep earning money from them. So that's a lesson to anyone who's in the professional field. Not everybody's an expert. So back to the story. So what we needed to come up with the difference, because obviously private lenders not going to lend us 100% and 100% of the renovations. I can't remember what the loan value was now. So we needed some funds from somebody else. I say, okay, I don't have the money, so who does? Now, as it turns out, a mutual friend had advertised on Facebook that he's an investor and he had some funds coming back and was looking for his next deal. Plus, the private lender knew this person and said, you know, we can put you in contact. So I did. I reached out to this person who had another investor who had some money, and I had to pitch the deal. So my pitch was, I just wanted to borrow some money and pay a percentage of the money, and then we could keep the deal 100% for ourselves. Now, I've never liked partnerships. I've always been against partnership because I had a poor mindset. I'm always, you know, well, someone's going to do more work than somebody else, and I want all the money myself. But if you want to grow, that's completely the wrong attitude. You need to be able to share deals. You need to be able to have partnerships, because you cannot scale or grow just on your own. You can grow, but it's going to be in such small increments. If you want to grow with a lot of speed and motion, you need partners, because they need to fill the gaps that you have. You know, I had a big gap. I didn't have the money, so I booked a phone call with this investor and I pitched the deal. I said, you know, this is the deal, this is what I have, and this is what I want. And straight away he says, I'm not interested in lending debt. I want to be a partner. I want to be on title. We'll be 50-50. I'll bring the money. You be the working partner, manage the deal, and we'll put the money in, we'll do the repairs, and then we'll refinance and we'll pull as much equity, we'll pull all the equity out, and then that'll pay back, you know, the money. Great. We can do this as a burr. So we formed a partnership, and that's what we did. So we were able to secure this property. He put in the down payment, which was $20,000, because then we could remove the financing, and we we created a great partnership and we did this one property. So we did this one in 2020. So it was during COVID. So we had a few challenges, not only because this was my first big deal. I'd done renovations before, but this was on a bigger scale. And we were having trouble with getting materials like everybody else was at that time, and obviously getting contractors there, and dealing with the scare of, oh, let's all be in lockdown, let's put a mask on, all that stupidity that went on. So it took a little bit longer than what the project should have done, but we still completed it. And I learned a lot through that one deal. And we refinanced it, we pulled the equity out, the money partner was paid back almost all of his money, not all of it, because it wasn't a perfect bird. There was still some money left into it. But what we did from that one deal, we went straight on and we did a second deal. And we did the same thing. We almost did a burr. We still had some of his money left into it. And we created such a great partnership that we can go on, and then we did a third project. And we did a buy and hold with some other investors which came to it. So we actually started off with 12 units, and 3 years later we ended up having 50 units together. And the third project that we did was a perfect burr, because we were able to do this one project, refinance it, pull all the money back from what was held in the first two properties. So we got all this money back, and we also both got money in his pocket as well. So that's how you can buy an apartment building without your own money, especially if you got no money. And when I laughed at the beginning when I said it's easier to find money, or it's better to go for other people's money when you have no money, it's because they're the skills that you learn. Because if you have money, you don't know how to approach somebody else with some money. You think you have to do it all yourself. But when you have nothing and you have to make this deal work, then you have to go out and find the people who have this money. And it is true what they say. If you have a great deal, the money will come, because people want to make money on their money.